All right. Hello. Welcome, everybody. April 12th here. We're going to kick this off. I know some of you guys are in the process of exciting things, so we'll let you come on out and tell me where you need help. Where do we start? Who wants to go first?
This is David.
Hey, David. How's it going?
Can you hear me this time?
Yep, I can hear you.
Good. So I figured out the audio thing. I guess that wasn't rocket science, right?
Well, you just got to make sure it's plugged in.
Yeah. Is there gas in the car?
That's right.
Okay. So question.
Okay.
Really enjoyed speaking with you at the TNC for a few minutes, and you were sharing with me a little bit about the reseller program and the ideal industry that you recommended targeting was manufacturers, 2 to 5 million a year, if I understood correctly.
Yeah,
And
that's always been my favorite.
okay, good. So my question is, I have on my radar, I have a company here for starters, I have a manufacturing company that's called Braun Northwest. They actually they actually buy 1.5 ton, 2 ton, 1 ton frames from Ford, Dodge, GMC, and then they make ambulance. They put the ambulance box on them and so forth. So they do very well. They do it for California, Washington, Oregon, Hawaii, and so I'd like to target them. And just wondering if you wouldn't mind taking a look at their website right now. It's called Braun Northwest, BRAUN. BRAUNNW.com, so braunnorthwest.com. And if you wouldn't mind, let me know what your approach would be as a new reseller and being able to acquire this account and help them with their, modify their SEO, make it better and more competitive, and what your approach would be.
Okay, sure.
If you wouldn't mind.
No, absolutely.
Okay.
I would love to do that.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Give me just a second to get set up, dialed in here.
Also, too, I'd love to hear more, and I know some others may be on the call too. And those that are listening to the recording would love to know more about the reseller program. We only got to talk about it just very briefly before you're whisked off for lunch. So I'd love to hear more about it and how the program works, what kind of support you have for resellers, and just the A to Z on the program, and how to go about the best way to getting clients, and which ones you recommend of the manufacturing side of the industry, type of manufacturing clients that you'd recommend going after, because there's all kinds of course, different manufacturers. So
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, yeah, just a little bit about our reseller program for those of you that some of you on here are actually in it. But basically what that is, it operates as a twofold type of thing. Some people know people that need services that we offer, and they just want to make referrals and make money off of it. That's one way. But the true white label reseller program that we put together was so you could take our services that we offer through our Internet Dominators and actually sell them as your own. There's a lot of people that were doing other things, servicing businesses for other things that they do, and they wanted to offer marketing services, SEO services, Facebook ad services, things of that nature, but they didn't want to go through the learning curve of actually doing it to provide it. So that's where, I offered up basically my back end to them as to be able to sell it. So that's what we did. We created a white label program for that, where when we generate the monthly reports, they don't have our name on them. They're just generic reports. You pass them along to your clients, and then, you can go over with them. One of the services that I provide myself to the resellers is access to me for assistance on anything they need. Like if they've got a client that needs technical assistance and they don't feel that they're up to the task of providing that, then I'll actually jump on the call with them and I show up as their employee. I'm the tech guy. So I'm like, in their pocket. I've done it for sales calls. I've done it for, brainstorming new clients, how to get them. And let me just share my screen here, and I'll kind of walk you guys through the process. Like he had mentioned Braun Northwest. So first thing is I'm going to take a look at the site just from an overall standpoint of, will this convert? One thing, Northwest, I don't think of Hawaii when I'm thinking Northwest. So there's some incongruency here if they truly are in the Northwest of why Diamond Head is in the background. So right out of the gate, I'm just going to throw out there, what I see is incongruence right there. Because if I'm a guy in the Northwest and I pull this site up and I see Diamond Head, I'm going to think, yeah, how can these guys possibly help me here?
Can I share something on that real quick, John?
Sure, absolutely.
Actually, it's supposed to be a slide share, and this is supposed to be an example of their Hawaiian client, their Hawaii client.
Okay.
It's actually going to a different slide every few seconds, and I don't see it doing that right now. Do you?
I can click the button here.
There we go. Yeah.
Force it.
Yeah. So they're showing different examples of their work.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That was a great point you were making. If that was the only. Yeah. Right. I get it. Yeah.
And this is another thing, I really don't like these slideshow things. And one of the big reasons is you're trying to tell a story here, and how long will it take for the slideshow to take place? It might go for 30 seconds, it might go for 2 minutes. That's way too long to expect someone to show up on your website for the first time and get an idea of who you are and what you do. They need it literally at a glance. At first glance, they're going to know whether they're in the right spot or not. And the first thing they're going to do, if they're not in the right spot, is they're going to go up and they're going to hit this back button. And that's going to give a bad signal back to the search engines. So being in congruence with, landing pages when people come in, that's the very first piece to conversion. Conversion is making sure they move forward through the funnel and not backward to the back button. So I really don't like the slideshow things. That's something that web designers came up with, and web designers love pretty gadgets. But pretty gadgets don't, sometimes that's not the thing that converts. Some of the highest converting web pages I've ever seen, or landing pages rather, that I've ever seen had absolutely no frills. It was just text on a white background. Now, I'm not saying that's the best thing for your business, but from a conversion standpoint, the headline that they see, when they land there, if it's in alignment with a problem they have or a solution they're looking for, or something that they know, hey, this is the answer to my problem here, that's really what you want to do. Second best to that is tell them, who you are and what you do. You've got that down here, the Braun Northwest Inc., builder of North Star emergency response vehicles. That's very clear. But the whole thing about, why all the different pictures in the slideshow to say that? Basically you want to figure out your ideal customer, what's their desired outcome? Why are they here? And address that. Big and bold, boom, right up front, one shot. So that's really what I look for from a visual perspective when I hit a client's website. That's the first thing I want to blow apart, is if they're out of congruency, if they don't convert, if they don't have a very crystal clear message of who they are, what they do, what problem are they going to solve for me. You know, the logos are great to show, you know, show validity. Let's see. And images, all of the stuff on the homepage really should back up the main thing. So what I'll do is I'll use an example here. I don't know that this is the case or not for this particular client, but I'm just going to make a broad-based assumption here to make a really strong point. If they serve like 2 or 3 different types of customers or 2 or 3 different types of industries, rather than having a slideshow that I have to go through to find the one that I'm interested in, I would rather see those 3 images across the top of the screen. So the customer can self-select who they are and what they're interested in. And then when they hit that image, they go into that section of the site that speaks directly to that. It's like getting them as quickly as possible to where they want to go is the most important thing about conversion on a website. Like I use the example a lot of a realtor. You know, a lot of realtor websites, they drop you into the homepage and they talk about everything on the homepage and they don't segregate it. They don't section it out. And what happens there is they've got 2 very distinct ideal clients. They've got a buyer and a seller, and they both want polar opposite things as far as a desired outcome. The buyer, they want a good deal. They want a low price. The seller wants maximum value. They want to get as much as they possibly can out of their property. You can see those 2 things are complete polar opposite. So as soon as you start talking about one, the other one's immediately turned off. So worst thing you can do is turn off your prospects. You know, you want to turn them on. So by segregating the information on the site, getting them to the place in the site that is going to be what they want as quickly as possible without bombarding them with other things that are against what they want, the better off you'll be, the better you'll convert. So I really like to segment that out right up front on the homepage instead of a slideshow. I will throw that slideshow out the window for that immediate segregation, you know, in a heartbeat. So after I go through that, that's like the first process, and that provides really good value to any prospect that you go to. Like any business owner, if you go in and you share that bit of information with them, they will be grateful. And you can tell them, you know, it's not your fault. This is just the way designers work. Designers aren't marketers, they're designers. And if you don't give them good direction, then they just design. And that's what you've got going on here. You didn't have someone in the position to give them proper guidance. So you got what you got, and you know, it's not your fault. You take the blame off of them. You don't want them to feel dumb or anything. Make them feel like this is a very standard thing. This is why a very small handful of sites actually do convert and are successful. This is the difference. That's what I'm here to provide. I'm provide that expertise for you. That is immediately going to make them bond to you and want to work with you. They're going to want more from you. They're going to see where you can provide true value to their site and give them insight on things they're blind to. You know, all business owners have blind spots. When you can remove that blind spot for them, you become very valuable to them. You know, in any field, any business, no matter what. So after I do that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and provide more insight for them. Things they don't know, things they need to know. So I'm going to copy the domain name out, and I use a program called SEMrush. And I basically just pop their domain in there and I hit search. And what that's going to do, I'm running on a desktop right now, so it's going to give me kind of an X-ray vision of what they've got going on. And again, they probably don't know this stuff. So for you to be providing this is a lot of times a real eye-opener. So here, what this shows is this shows how many keywords they actually rank for and what the value of that traffic is. So this, on a monthly basis, these keywords that they rank for, if they were to do like a pay-per-click program, that would be worth 1.2K, that's $1,200 a month is what they would be paying in a pay-per-click program to get this much organic traffic. Now, it doesn't mean it's the right traffic, it's just the value of the traffic that they have. Here you can see their growth pattern, like over the, the different months and years. So when you go in and you say, oh, I see you started this, in June of 2016, you were pretty well flat before that. And then whatever you do, if you see drops here, you can say, something happened here and, I see a big drop. They're going to go, wow, how does this guy know this much about my business? So that's really going to be impressive to them. So, and that's just basic stuff. The other thing here is it shows paid search. If they're running paid ads, it's going to tell you. So when you show up, you don't have to ask them, you'll know. You'll know if they're running paid ads, and if so, how many keywords and what the cost is. It's going to give you all that information. Also going to tell you if they're running display ads. If they're running display ads, that gives you an idea, hey, these guys kind of got things going on. They know what they're doing, they're spending money, they're a lot more serious. But the fact that these guys rank for 639 keywords, that tells me they've been around and they're doing something right. These are ideal for SEO because you're not starting from scratch. You're working with something that's already existing, and it's really easy since it's got that traction to push it up. Over here, it'll tell you like how many keywords are in the number 1 to number 3 spot. They currently have 4 that are in the number 1 to number 3. Over here, I can see what they are, and they all have to do mostly with their brand name, which is kind of natural. And then in the 4 to 10, the 11 to 20, on down the line. Most of their keywords are back here where they're not on the first page, so they're not really working for them. So as far as selling them an SEO package, you can show them, look at all these opportunities back here. If we just move these up to the first page, you'll start getting visibility and you'll start getting more traffic. It's like you're showing them a carrot. The carrot's right in front of their nose. Like, you guys are almost there, a little bit of a boost. One of our standard SEO packages will allow you to take advantage of all this. You're already getting $1,200 worth of this for free right now. Think if you added one of our packages on there, we might be able to double, triple, quadruple that value for you. So that's this is the program that I use. Gives me just a lot of insight. I go a lot deeper into this when I'm going through this with a customer, but it's just kind of a breeze through, so you can see I don't do guesswork. I show them real stuff, real value, things that they may not need to know, but they probably should know. There's also a mobile button here. You can see the mobile traffic too. Notice they got 638 keywords organic on desktop. Let's look at mobile. This could potentially expose a real problem like it just did. On mobile, we dropped from 600 keywords down to 22. That tells me their mobile is probably not very good. So, that again, you've exposed some real pain. You say, hey, you guys did really well on the desktop search, but if mobile, if your customer base is a lot of mobile users, you're not showing up there hardly at all. So you've just, uncovered a real pain point for them. So it gives you, it's really easy to sell customers on services when you've got access to this kind of data. And this program, SEMrush, you can export these reports and you can email these to them, or whatever you want to do as far as using it as a sales tool. It's a really cool tool. Of all the tools that I've got access to in SEO, this is probably the one that I use the most on a day-to-day basis, because I can find out any competitor and get competitor information. It's a great tool. So anyway, that's kind of how I do some of my prospecting. That's how I teach the resellers to do this. And you can see with very little knowledge, you have access to present yourself as a total expert, even if you have virtually no knowledge. You can get in, you can set up a, and if the customer is asking questions that you don't know how to answer, you can say, hey, I would love to schedule a conference call with our team. I'll put our tech support guy on there. He can answer any question that you may have. And that's where I can come in. I can actually do that presentation for you, address any questions they might have. And I can even close the sales for you if you want me to do that, or I can pass it back to you, whatever works. So that's kind of in a nutshell how our reseller type program works. So any other specific questions, related to it?
What industry of what category, the manufacturing industry, do you recommend targeting?
I really don't have a particular recommendation. I just know over the years, I've been doing this since roughly about 1995. So I've got some experience, in the marketplace dealing with customers and online services. And I can just tell you the ideal clients that I've had over the years, they've all been in the manufacturing realm in the $2 to $10 million range. Now that's where I start.
$2 to $10 million a year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because if you get lower than that, if you get a manufacturer that's lower than 2 million, they're typically going to be a startup, or they're not going to have ad budget. They're not going to get to a point in their business where they're actually, profitable, making money, looking to expand. When you get above the 10 million, typically there's a lot of extra layers of bureaucracy that you've got to go through. You're no longer dealing with the owner of the business. You're dealing with a lot of different layers, and a lot of times the guy that's hiring you, his job is on the line based on your performance, and he's really going to be hard to deal with because of that. It's like if he hires you and you don't perform or you fail, he's going to lose his job. So that's a much harder sell to do than, selling to the actual business owner. Another thing, this is a technique that I've seen that works so well at prospecting and getting your foot in the door. If you want to go up to a bigger company, one of our resellers used to do this, and he would attack the big companies. And nothing wrong with that. If you can get through the gatekeepers and stuff, more power to you. There's way more money up in that level. It's just, for me, it wasn't really a comfortable thing because I don't like to fight that hard. I'm like lightning. I'll take the path of least resistance. So I've carved out a really nice niche in that area that I love the most. But if you want to go after big companies, and you're going to have to get through those gatekeepers, and the way to do that and remove that cloud or whatever that is of that person that's hiring you, you can remove that by going one step above them. And a way to do this, I'll give you kind of a scenario, and hopefully you'll see how it'll be like a light bulb turned on of why this works and how it works. But you can go in as a reporter, and you're doing a story on the owner of the business. And basically, what you're going to do is you're going to get an opportunity to interview this guy with the intent in mind of writing a press release that's going to get distributed. And basically, when you do the distribution, you can bring a report back to him and show him how this information got spread out, and you can introduce him to another service that you offer, and this is just a piece of it. Now, that's kind of a sneaky way through the door, but a lot of times, when you're in the process of that interview, it can strike up other conversations, and that's the conversation that, you could say, hey, this report, we can actually syndicate this out if you want to expand this even more. And you could do, a PR web distribution. That costs a few $100, and you can charge them, they don't know what it costs. It's costing you maybe $200 or $300. You can turn around and tell him, for $500 or for $1,000, I can have this syndicated out on the news media and have this story about you that favors you in a very good light, put all across America, in fact, all across the world. Every news outlet around there is going to get this press release, and who knows where it could show up. It's a pretty good value for that. And then you can start the conversation of how well that does for SEO, which is another service you provide. And what'll happen is if you connect with that business owner on that, you're doing a big ego play, because this is about them and this is about their story getting out, and they love that. I mean, they eat that kind of stuff up. If they're, say it's a 20, 50, $100 million company, that guy that owns it, that got it there, the one that opened the doors and started that thing, he is proud beyond belief of what he's done. And when you stroke his ego like that, $1,000 is nothing. That's like him buying a fancy watch so he can show off his wrist. It's seriously, it's something he'll do without even thinking about. And then when you've done that for him, you become his friend. And when you have that other service, he's liable to go to the guy that would have hired you, and he will tell that guy, hey, hire this company. I want this company. And now it's not their problem. If you fail, it's on the owner. So it's a completely different relationship now. You can see how that sale now is a done deal. It's not you trying to sell and, base your outcome on that guy's livelihood. That's out of the picture. If you fail, it's not on him, it's on the owner.
Hey, John, how much is your reseller program? How much do you charge to us to do that?
It's $147 a month.
Okay.
So I've made it pretty inexpensive to do that. And like I said, I'm there. You've got access to me to, do whatever you need in that process. Like I've jumped on, client meetings, going over keyword research, positioning, helping budget, figuring out what they need, all that stuff. So
what time frames are best to be able to book an appointment with you to be able to do that? Because I know you're super busy. And so if I'm with a potential client, and they want to do that, what days of the week, or how far in advance should we book that with you?
You want to give me as much time as you can. I know that's not, sometimes I've literally had resellers that are with a client, or they've just met somebody, and they've got a question and they want to put me on the phone with them right away. So basically what I tell them is, text me if I'm available. I can hop on there right then.
Wow.
Really up for that. I mean, if I'm there and I'm available, I just tell them to text versus call, because a lot of times I'll be in a meeting already and I can't take calls during that. So if you text me, I'll see the text, I can respond back, hey, I'm available in 10 minutes, I can hop in, or I can't do it today, let's schedule this, it's something we need to schedule, or whatever it may be. But I'm very fluid. I don't have set schedules or office hours or stuff like that. So
how do we get your phone number?
but yeah, I mean that's
an extra $147 a month.
No, that's included. That is included. I mean, for me, it totally makes sense for me. You guys don't, you should never feel like you're taking advantage of me. At that point, we're almost like business partners. We're working together. So it's like, I'm more than happy to do that. What I don't want you to do is I don't want you to put me on the phone to talk about myself. If you bring me on, it's for a purpose. I'm there to solve a problem, not talk about myself. You should, you should pre-position me as your tech guy. However you want to position me, you can position me as the greatest thing since sliced bread, however you want to do that. But don't bring me on and say, hey, could you come on and tell them your background? Or, I don't want to spend my time on calls like that talking about myself. I'm there to help them. So
thank you very much for sharing the interview idea, going to the top decision maker, the owner of the company. That's awesome. What I've done before, I've done similar things. I'm very, very good at getting to the owner of the company, getting through the gatekeepers and all that, regardless of the company. It doesn't matter. Yeah, but I love your interview idea. I was using FedEx actually earlier. I was using FedEx to the owner of the company. Special package or something that I knew that they would enjoy by looking at their social media and what their interests are. And I would send them maybe a jersey from their favorite sports team or whatever, FedEx. And I'd go straight to them and they would get it. And it would pass all the gatekeepers. But I love the interview idea. Mm-hmm. My other question is...
because the interview gets you face-to-face with them and you can actually connect. And
like you said, it appeals to their ego.
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing...
nailed it.
Better that you can do,
That's awesome.
Because you're there to get them to talk about themselves, so you get enough information so you can write a good press release for them.
I love that idea. That's perfect. Thank you so much for sharing that. Another question is, okay, so when you're speaking with a decision maker, they typically, of course, would like to see, what kind of examples of your work that you have to show them. Do we have some websites, 2 or 3 websites, maybe we can show them examples of work?
Yeah. There's a lot of times when you're dealing with a manufacturer, the one thing that they'll ask you is, can you show me examples of sites like mine that you've done? And you want to say, no, I can't. And the reason is, when I take on a client, I don't take on any competing clients. So if you hire me, your project will be the only one in this marketplace that I'm working on. And they love that, because one thing you can position is set yourself apart from that is if you're talking, to a guy that says he specializes in your industry, that means he's serving your competitors too. How well could he serve you and protect you?
What social proof are we going to offer them? What credibility are we going to offer them to show that we can actually do the job?
That like when you've got me on there, you can basically use any of my history. You can say, our tech guy has been doing this for, however many years. You can use, any of the logos of companies that I've actually done this stuff for, which, if you look at my About Me page, I've got, a bunch of different credibility stuff. And then, when I'm on your team, that all carries over to you.
So if I want to create a website and specifically to do this, and I actually have you build it, of course, but I couldn't, for social proof for them to initially see that, I probably couldn't use those logos. Is that correct?
Well, it depends on how you're positioning it. And what you want to do is you want to create, like, you might want to have like a case study of something that you might use. And what we would do is we would come up with that for you of what you want to use as that credibility piece. And then I could supply you, details from that. And again, it's going to be like generic details like, hey, we helped a customer in the real estate industry, and here's where they were. It's very similar to where you are now, and here's what happened over the first 3 months of them working with us, 6 months, a year, and then 2 years. And you want to forecast. This is a long phase, long-term thing. Like, especially if you're selling them SEO services, one thing I will set the ground rules for is expectations. I'll tell them right up front that, SEO is a long-term investment in your business. It's not the only thing you should be doing. It's an addition to your overall marketing plan. It's not something that you want to leave out. It's something that's incredibly valuable. But if you're looking at doing this thing as a test, stick your toe in the water for 3 months, I would recommend you save your money and put it into a paid ad campaign where you'll actually get something out of it. Because you want to make sure they understand that SEO is, it's a way of life. They should be doing it forever. It's not a 3-month thing. It's not a 1-month thing. It grows over time, and the more you do it, the better you do it, the more that growth will be. So,
do we recommend that we charge for an initial consult?
I've gone both ways on that. It really just kind of depends on what you're comfortable with. One of the things that I've done in my business is I've never had any long-term contracts. Some people want to lock them in for a year. I've never done that, and the reason I didn't do that was because if everyone else is doing that and they've been burnt and they've got locked into these long-term contracts and they had to pay the whole year to figure out it didn't work, I wanted to remove that objection right up front and just be upfront and honest with them and say, I do this month to month because if at any point you don't feel comfortable with this or you don't feel it's working out for you, I don't want to hold you in a contract where you're not happy. I only want to work with happy people. That's our intent, that we work together, and it's a win-win all the way around. But I do tell them, I say, if your intent is just to test this for 90 days and that's all you want to do, I just, save your money, go out and have a good vacation instead of doing that, because you're going to be throwing it away.
That's true. Yep. Another question. Thank you, John. So to find a list of these $2 to $10 million a year manufacturing companies here in the Western Washington area, would you go through DNB, or what would you recommend to find them?
There's a lot of different sources. There's a company called Data USA that you can get a lot of that information from. There's a ton of sources where you can look up companies and business resources and things like that. But one of the things, and this is how I got a lot of my customers, was once you get one, everybody knows some manufacturer that's in that range, and you can get a referral from somebody, or it might be somebody that or whatever. You get that one, and then you ask them, once you're working with them and you're on a good relationship, generally you're working with the owner. The owner of a business like that, they go to trade shows. They know all kinds of people that are just like them, and referral sources, you can get a ton of them. Like my water park guy, I was working with him because he was a friend of my brother's. So my brother introduced me to him. I started working with him. He was really happy. He did water sports equipment and water parks and water slides and all that kind of stuff. And he introduced me to a whole line of people, because in his business, he's manufacturing different products. He's buying products from other manufacturers just like him to build his products. So it's like they're all interconnected and intermingled. Once you find one, it's like you found a gold mine. And the key is just creating that good relationship with them and asking them, who else do you know that I could help just like I'm helping you? And man, they'll just open up their Rolodex for you. If you've really got that, that bond with them, and you've created that and they're happy, and you ask them that, especially if you position things along the way as going above and beyond and doing things extra for them and providing extra value, it's almost like now you've done them a favor, and then it's time for you to ask for a favor in return. And that particular avatar, it's like those guys have their own world they live in. It's like the good old boys club. And once you're a member, the doors just open for you. It's awesome the way that works. It's, you know, some people say it's hard to get in, it's hard to break into that, but I guarantee you those guys are not tech guys. They know the value of this, and most of them just don't know who to turn to. So if you can get in, just find one of them that's in that situation. They've all got friends that are in the same boat, because guess what? If they had friends that had it covered, their friends would tell them about them, or they would ask them about it, and they would have already got the solution. So it's like, you know, when you're the first one in there, they're happy to tell their friends about it, because what does everybody want to do? They want to help their friends. So if you've done good for them sharing you, they have a whole huge network to share you with. It's like a completely different world.
That's great tips. Thank you. What trade show? Oh, not what CRM system do you recommend?
You know, I never got that sophisticated with the stuff, and I know that sounds bad. I supply a lot of big companies with all this stuff, but myself, I've always done things very simply. I have a billing system that I run everything through. My whole business runs on this, and it's called WHMCS. It's by no means a fancy CRM, but it's a great billing system. A lot of hosting companies use it. It allows me to run recurring billing, and I can put notes in there, so I can keep everything related to a client all in one spot. But like I said, it's not like an Infusionsoft or something that's going to follow up with email sequences and campaigns and all that kind of stuff. Quite honestly, I just never got there. I've done a lot of business. I've made a very good living, and never had to bridge that gap, I guess.
Okay. So to build out a custom site for being a digital marketing agency to be a reseller white label, should I talk with you further privately on that, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, we kind of got out of a lot of the web development stuff a while back. But Gwen, who's on here, Gwen is actually one of our resellers. She's working with a company right now that's redeveloping her site, and she basically patterned it off of my site and got a web developer. I'm sure she'd be happy to share that source with you.
Okay, how do I get in contact with Gwen?
Gwen she's on here right now. I can connect you guys on email.
Okay, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So, and she's, Gwen and Rustin, her and her husband, they've been with me. They started into one of my first programs back in, it was probably like 2010, and they've
it was.
Was it 2010?
Yes.
And they've gone through every stage of of growth and everything through the reseller program. And Gwen, maybe you can tell them how that's been for you. I mean, I jump on calls for you guys. And
well, we've got one scheduled for this afternoon, actually.
That's right, 3 o'clock.
Is it 3 o'clock or 2:30? I'll have to look again. But anyways, yeah, we joined from the Rank Mongol one that you did with Ryan Dice, and we thought when we signed up, we thought we were only getting, I think it was 10 weeks of calls.
Yeah.
That's enough to get our feet wet. So our main focus at that time is we were doing business development, and I was bringing Rustin on, and he's a connector. So when I heard John spiel about the SEO, I thought that totally fits in connecting services and people with what they need. And so that's kind of where we started. And I'd say it was a long, hard road for us just to learn how to sell and how to really show the services. But now we're doing really well. So it took us, what would you say it took us? About 5 years to figure out how to how to sell it.
Yeah, about 5-6 years, and John grinding on my brain to really talk to people. Because we were doing it all
I
wrong.
never gave up on you.
Huh?
I never gave up on you.
No, and that's the one thing about John, everyone. John doesn't give up on you unless you give up on yourself. And then once you get to the point where there's no return, there's nothing we could do about it, you know. But for those that, you know, for people that are, you know, grinders and don't have that give up attitude, those are the people you learn to invest with. It's like when John goes through about talking to your ideal clients, how to qualify them and how to disqualify them in such a way that they leave happy about the whole situation. It's quite interesting. So I'll let Gwen finish because she's really the star of this whole deal.
I think it's a team.
Yeah.
So I think our biggest client right now, just he keeps wanting to do more. He keeps wanting to do more, and he just hit 700,000 last month when he came to us 3 years ago. He was earning about 300,000.
No, it was less than 200,000.
Less than 200 a month, and he sells e-commerce diesel performance parts. And so we took a process, but he did everything that we wanted to do slowly. And John just stuck with us, and he'd jump on the calls and explain the technical stuff. So for us, John is our chief technical officer. And that's how we introduce him to our clients. And then they understand that, and they start working with I guess both of us. We're working at the front people. We answer the questions, we qualify them or disqualify them, and then we will set up and do the keyword search and kind of get things rolling. And then done a few keyword searches. I'm like, no, I'm paying John for those. They're very time consuming. And he's got the system down. So that's kind of how we've done it. And we're going on 4 years with our one client, and he's pushing he wants $1 million a month, and he hit 700 last month. So
We're getting there.
building him up. And now we've got another client that's going through and doing all his adjustments on his website so he can convert the traffic. And we're starting to build him up in keywords. And now we're working on another e-commerce client. So it's good. And John has been faithful to stick with us through the ups and downs and learning curves.
And if you guys are going to be resellers of John's platform, you get him at a total discount. So, you know, and John's taking really good care of us. That we're not disappointed in what we pay him because he's worth all of that and more. So you guys are literally, if you're jumping in on his program, you're in for a good value for what you're putting your money into.
Yeah, because when we started that, I think I was charging the resellers $1,000 to get in, and then the $147 a month. But now it's just like, you know, we've just taken the hurdle out up front and just let people in if they want to get into it. So.
Can I ask a question, John? Because I've got a lot of things happening all at once.
Sure.
And so because of that, it causes my brain to sometimes feel like scrambled eggs.
Okay.
And yeah.
Well, I'll do my best to unscramble you.
Yeah. So I'm struggling because it feels like I have so many priorities that I don't know how to prioritize my priorities.
Okay.
You ever had that problem?
Oh yeah. I've definitely had that one. I've faced that one many times throughout.
Yeah. So all along, you know, I first started out as a B2C model, and then I shifted and pivoted towards a B2B model, and then that B2B model keeps kind of growing a little bit. You know, I've got like a reseller program, I've got an affiliate program. Now I'm trying to incorporate a 2-tier affiliate program. And I'm also at the same time getting on stages and I'm speaking, I'm getting all this buzz generating, and I totally know my website's not converting and it's killing me. And then on top of that, I'm still kind of doing field testing on price point. Like, you know, I think I found the sweet spot, but I'm also then trying to protect my resellers by my prices being a little higher, unless you get a special offer coming in from a, you know, like a side door kind of a thing.
Sure.
So, okay. now that I've kind of like stated the problem, I'm trying to figure out, because my resources are very limited. My time is incredibly limited. My team is incredibly small, and the money, I don't have the money to hire a lot of people. And so if I do spend money to hire a person or multiple virtual people, because I know virtual sometimes is incredibly difficult because you know, again, my bandwidth is very limited. So I have to be the one
your time to manage that person.
I know, and I'm noticing that that's sucking up a tremendous amount of my time. And so could you please just give me like maybe some thoughts on one or two things that you think is going to like make a huge difference, so I can at least start creating more revenue so that I can actually hire more people?
Yeah, because that, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about the revenue. And when I know we're all entrepreneurs and our minds think very similar. You know, we see all these things and we're like, oh yeah, that's a great opportunity. That's a great opportunity. And, you know, that'll add to my bottom line, you know, down the line. And we get caught up in that to the point where we just overwhelm ourselves to incapacity. And like I said, I totally get that. I've done that so many times throughout the years. And that the one thing that I've got to do when I get into that mode is I got to just like stop and take a breath and say, okay, what am I really doing? You know, what am I doing here? And again, you know, we don't have the capacity to do all this and run all these teams and do all this stuff ourselves. So the thing that I ask myself is, what is the best and highest use of my time? You know, what can I put my time into to generate more revenue? Because a lot of times when you're in that spot, you've like chipped off your time that was making you your money, and now you're down to a point where it gets kind of scary. You know, you're like, you know, what have I done? And you know, I can think of at least 2 or 3 times along the way that I did that, and I was at that point. And it's like, you know, what? That's a bad feeling too. You know, it's a very dark place to be. But every time I do that, I think, okay, well, where did the majority of my money, my easy money, come from? That if I just like, it's all about me. You know, it's all about each one of us. So it's, you know, and sometimes we get in a point where we're trying to help too many people and we're doing things, you know, that aren't really benefiting ourselves. And, you know, it's a cool place to be where you can do that. But until you get there, like Sue, you know, Sue was a perfect example of this. When I started working with her, you know, she wanted to do all these charity things and all these things for other people, but she was drowning herself. And I'm like, Sue, you got to get yourself to a position where you're comfortable before you can help others. You know, it's like in the airplane, they say, put on your oxygen mask first, so you don't pass out, because you can't help anybody when you go down. So, you know, that back to that whole best and highest use of your own time. Where can you generate the most money? And sometimes you just got to do that for a little bit to get yourself back comfortable before you can afford to make a move and, you know, try and move sideways. You got to move forward first. So, you know, and I don't know if that's helpful at all, but, you know, like with me, and sometimes it doesn't help the long term either, which is kind of, some people say it's kind of counterproductive, but you know, survival is first and foremost. You know, you've got to survive the storm.
Hey, Michelle, can I ask a question?
Sure, Cheryl.
You said your website is not converting?
Well, it doesn't appear as though it is.
So,
because otherwise I would be churning over revenue every night while I sleep. But no, there's funnels that I still am trying to complete to put in place so that it's a bit better of a smoother ride down that buyer's journey. I know that, and there's video editing that is required to make because my tech is so new and I have to do more visual explanations along the way, I think.
Yeah.
That's,
So are you doing Facebook Live with it?
oh yeah, we've been doing Facebook Live and I've been doing radio, podcasts, speaking on stage, and all this buzz is happening. You know, I even got written up in Inc. magazine, so there's just a lot of buzz, but unfortunately not enough conversion. And I know some big time fail is my web presence.
So that's something that maybe, John, you'd want to take a look at and see where the fall is happening, because I know Michelle's got a great product and I've seen people excited about it. So I would say, you know, maybe John, looking at your website would be a good place to help her start.
I kind of have all kinds of ideas on what I need to do to the website, but then again, it's like, okay, unless I do it, I have to pay somebody to do it, and then see how it's like this nasty little circle.
Yeah. But here's the other thing. Back to that highest and best use of your time. Is working on your website the highest and best use of your time?
I personally do not think so. I know what needs to be done, but I don't need to be the one doing it.
But even the fact of, does it need to be done?
Yes, I do believe it does, yes.
Do you have traffic on it?
I just texted my web guy. We just converted over to a new theme, and I don't think the analytics code got transferred properly or something, because I just went to look. I've been so busy I haven't even been able to. My web guy is like so limited. He's like maybe able to offer me 5 hours a week, but that's been helping me get these affiliate things going, this reseller thing going, and so our analytics are not really producing great results right now. Yeah,
but like for a lot of people, when they first start a website out, traffic doesn't just automatically come to it. No. Traffic is something that you build over time. So if you're right in the beginning and you don't have traffic and that's not making you money, the first priority is not to build a phenomenal website to serve people that aren't there.
No, ours has been around since 2016, the Revelio.com. It's just originally we started out as a B2C company and then we pivoted. So the reason I even told you that is because we've tried to modify, and we're still not quite honed in with the new focus.
Yeah. See, like for me, when I work with a commercial client, I'll give you an example here. I'm working with an audio video company right now. And they're a manufacturer in the 2 to 10 million, so they're my ideal customer. Like when I walked into their building, it's like, oh, I'm at home. These are my people. Yeah. But they had a website up. It didn't have any traffic to it, so it wasn't a big deal that it wasn't, right. But it was like very, very far from right. And they wanted to drive traffic to it, and I'm like, whoa. First, you got to figure out, what are you selling? Because you've got all this different stuff that doesn't make sense. And I said, where do you make the majority of your profit? And when they told me where that was, there was nothing about that on the site. And I'm like, are you sure? Let's create a marketing campaign around that. And let's drive some paid traffic to it. And let's make sure it converts. And then once we know that, we'll put that on the site.
Okay.
We'll eliminate all the rest of the stuff. So, the first thing, and this is totally contradictory to what everybody says. Everybody says, you got to have a website. You got to have a website. Well, yeah, but what for? Mm-hmm. You got to have a plan.
Yeah.
You got to have a plan. And that comes back to business strategy. Strategy is like the underlying thing for everything in business. Mm-hmm. If you don't have a strategy, then you wind up spinning your wheels.
Exactly. And that's what I've been kind of really trying to hone in on. Okay, well, thinking logically through everything so that I can identify where I need to spend my energy and my limited time.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, like with me, when I get into that, I look back and I realize, well, I'm doing all this stuff and none of it's tied to a strategy. And at that point, I'll take a step back and I'll say, okay, what is my current strategy? And your strategy, whoever you are and whatever you're doing, your strategy should be tied to the fastest way to generate income in a recurring way. For me, that's been my strategy ever since I moved into the whole online stuff. Before I was based on hours per dollars, and I always made a lot because I charged a lot for what I did because I didn't want to work a lot of hours. So
yeah.
I figured I got to make a lot of dollars per hour to have the life that I want. But when I got into online and I realized, hey, I started doing web hosting and started building sites to get web hosting money in recurring. And after like 2 years of grinding on that, that was my strategy, was all that recurring revenue. So I was literally grinding for the first 2 years of being in this business to build websites. And a lot of them I did for free. I was building sites for free just to get the hosting business. And after a couple of years, I looked at where I was and I'm like, I had this realization of, wow, I don't really need to work anymore. I had so much recurring revenue coming in that I could stop the grind. And I remember, that when I hit that point, I told Barb, I said, we don't really need to do this anymore. I said, we're going to make, and it was funny, I positioned it in a way because I wanted to go on a cruise. And I positioned it in a way where I told her, I go, you know what? We're going to actually save money if we go on this cruise because it's cheaper for us to be on the cruise ship than it is for being at home. And she's like, what are you talking about? We have to work. And I'm like, no, we're going to make as much money now being on the cruise ship as we are sitting here. Because all those layers of recurring income were coming in, whether we did anything or not. And that's when it allowed me to get really creative and look at other opportunities. But until you're to that point, you don't have that luxury. And when you start doing that, you get in that overwhelm, and it can drag you down really quickly.
Well, what I've been doing is I've been creating small little funnels to because like I said, I'm still kind of testing price point, and I'm still kind of testing who exactly is my most profitable target market and quickest things to cash, or quickest way to cash. So I will continue to just focus on just getting those implemented and testing and see what happens without worrying about my whole overall site, because there's a lot to do on the whole overall site. There's a lot, because like I said, we've been 2 years shifting, pivoting, and all this other stuff, and I want to hone in and make sure I'm even going in the right direction.
Because basically, as long as you have a sales process that's bringing in revenue, and that might be changing and shifting along the way, that it's not really the site that's bringing the revenue in. And I know that's counterintuitive to all the stuff that you're hearing, that you got to have a website, you got to do this. And I'm by no means saying that you shouldn't have a website, but it's more important to figure out your strategy, improve your strategy, and create income. And then the website should be the automation of that process once you figure it out.
Okay. I hear you.
It's like the thing that everybody's gotten is they got this idea, and I don't know where it came from. I have no idea where it came from, but it's rampant across America and the world, for that matter, is people got the idea that business was just throwing up a website and make money overnight. And that is such a fantasy. That, that is just like total fantasy land.
But wait, there's more. Just kidding.
It's not real. It's not reality. There's virtually no reality to that thought. It never worked that way in the real world. Why would it work that way online? You've got to have a business strategy. It's like you can't just open up the doors of a new shop and expect people to know you and flood in.
Yeah.
Right? It never worked in the real world. People that did that, there was an out of business sign on the door before long. And that's what people are experiencing with the website, and they don't understand. They think, they think they're a failure, they think business doesn't work and all that. And it's like, well, yeah, that business never worked. Why would it all of a sudden, why would that model work online now if it didn't work in the real world?
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of buzz going just by being out there, like I said, Facebook Lives, being on radio, podcasts, TV interviews, and doing live events and all that. So I am doing that part right. I just gotta.
Yeah. So once you figure out what works there, that's your quickest path to cash, is the stuff that's working for you, and then you take that and you automate that.
Exactly.
When you get to the point where you say, hey, this works, this presentation works for this audience, then you take that, you build a funnel, that goes on your website, and now you drive traffic. You go out and you know the audience, you gear that audience to that landing page to get them into that funnel because you know it works, you know it sells.
Yeah, well, thanks, John. I appreciate that input, because that's definitely helps me kind of clear my path a little bit.
Yeah, so whatever it is that you're doing to make money, you need to do that. That's your first thing. Put everything else to the side.
Mm-hmm.
Do that, perfect that process to the point where you say, this is a winner.
Mm-hmm.
This works. It works every time. I've got this shit figured out. and that's what you automate.
All right.
And then that becomes your first step after that. So everything else, anything that's not making you money, just set it to the side. And do that, perfect that thing that's making you the money, and then that becomes your next project. We take this thing that works and we put that on the web.
Mm-hmm. Let it churn.
And now we've got something we know works. Mm-hmm. We know who the audience is. And now you have the next project. Now it's there. Now you have to drive that audience to it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have to head out, but I wanted to thank you for your time today. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm here for. You guys, all of you, just, if you are up against a challenge, doesn't matter what it is, I've probably been there. I've probably faced it and may still be facing it. Who knows? But yeah, so make money. You know how to do that.
Yep. Okay, I'm gonna go make some money now. So I'll see you later.
Awesome. Okay.
Bye.
See you later. So, all right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. But again, I want to thank you guys. Thank everybody for being on here and sharing and helping this process. Because believe it or not, when you ask your questions, there's other people that have the same thing. Maybe they just don't know how to ask, or they don't know what to ask. So it helps everybody. That's why I do this. That's why I say there's nothing you can't bring on here. Some people go and they'll want to do private coaching with me, and I'm like, anything we can do on private coaching, I can assure you we can do on here. And that's it, because the reason I do it this way is because it does help everybody. So, Gregory, you need to know about Paul Fink. What would you like to know about Mr. Fink?
All right. Very quickly, last weekend, Cheryl made an interesting statement saying rat Fink. And one of her people said that she went to his event for 3 days and it was nothing more than just a rehash of what we already know. And what really annoyed me is that I went to cancel on him and he you can do it. And so I got wishy-washy and I accepted. I went to check my billing and he charged me twice. So I'm going to be calling him on that one. But
okay,
is I see him in operation. What is he's just being a rehasher of everything that you and Malinchek and Craig knows?
Well, I honestly can't answer that because I have not ever attended one of his events. I've never been through his training before. Mm-hmm. I know Paul from Craig's group. He's been in Craig's mastermind for a long time. He provides value in there of, helping with his sales process. But again, it's basic salesmanship. It's probably not something you're already familiar with. So if that's something that you need, if you need, sales training, stuff like that, that might be, he might be a good fit for you. I'm not sure, but again, I haven't been through his training. I know his kind of his model of who he's modeled himself after. He kind of comes off as, to me, kind of comes off more as one of the smooth talker sales guys. I don't want to say a used car salesman, but
that's the feeling I get. I mean, I do deal with people here in LA, and it's like, why do my vibes say? And these, okay.
Yeah. So to me, that's kind of the vibe that he comes across at. He's positioned himself as the maverick millionaire. And tells people they should be making millions of dollars. Whether he does or not, I don't know. Again, I don't.
Good point. You and I and the majority of us have been around at least 3 years, if not longer. And I have yet to hear anybody step forward and say, I took Paul's group or class 2 years ago or 1 year ago, and now I'm making tons of money. I mean, what was interesting was the couple that was on earlier, that they said that they got this one client and helped him move from 200,000 to 700,000 in sales. That is what I want to be hearing about. I want to be hearing what is your, like someone like, Dr. Keys told me one time, I wanted to put together this option program of going from whatever you are to making your first million in options.
Okay.
Keys and I had a consultation with him. He says, Greg, your biggest thing is going to be credibility. Until you do it, you can't sell it anywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
I have yet to hear anyone step forward after 3 years. Has he created a maverick millionaire?
Yeah.
And that's where I was coming from. That's why I haven't even launched my program. My thing, as you heard, I've been 3-4 years, and I haven't pushed anything out, because until I achieve my level of success to help someone behind me, I got to be up there ahead of them, not with them or behind them.
But you gotta be careful with that too, because think about it this way: everybody's got to start somewhere.
That's true too.
Like look at my ACT program. As good as that is, I mean, I had to start somewhere. And on the beginning stages, no, it hadn't helped anybody because no one had been through it. So you can't really put that cart before the horse, at that capacity.
But I have started my options group with my family. I have weekly 7 p.m. Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got something that works, it doesn't necessarily have to be that it's worked for somebody that's been through your program, because at some point in the beginning, no one's been through your program. But that doesn't mean that what you're teaching doesn't work, and that
absolutely true. I run into option, right? I run into other option traders who have made big money, so I know it works. It's just a matter of me finding my niche and then finding my audience if I really want to follow that path, because I have 2 projects that are generating money, and it's like, why do I want to take on a third? Like you mentioned last week, the Royal Tie. Why do I want to continue the Royal Tie if I really only X number of hours to make it go forward?
And one of the things you can use too is, you can use social proof, of the proof of others. If you're selling a, options trainer programming, or options trader, a program for that, you can base the outcome of other people, what they've done in options trading, and the reason that they did that was because they knew these particular secrets, and that's what you're going to share with them.
Right. And
so you don't have to come out and say, hey, 10 people used my program and they turned into millionaires, because that's not true, not yet anyway. But you could certainly position it as, X amount of people every year make X amount of money off of trading. And the reason that they can do that and the rest of the people that try fail is they know something the others didn't. I'm going to share that knowledge with you, so you'll have that potential to be able to be in that group.
Right. I'm also cut the learning curve. It's taken 5 years to get where I'm at now, and I'm moving my family forward on the weekly sessions. And already in 3 to 4 weeks, 4 or 5, in five sessions, they are already ahead 6 months of 6 months to a year where I was at in my proficiency in handling the software.
Yeah. See, so that's what you're selling.
Selling
That's
the shortcut.
yeah. That's what you can say, and that's what's true and honest.
That's true. That's true. You stick with me, I can cut 5 years of education down to 2 months.
Yeah. See, there's huge value to that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So just position it that way.
I won't be able to be in next week or the week after. I got pension meeting. I get paid for one meeting at least.
We always record, so you don't have to miss anything.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for today. We'll be back on regular time next week. And until then, have a great week, and hopefully this info is being helpful for you. So we'll talk to you next week.